Hey, my name's Caleb. I'm 25 and I live in a creaky old apartment complex on the edge of Denver, Colorado. The kind of place where the hallway smells faintly of mildew and someone's always burning popcorn in the microwave downstairs. My unit is on the third floor, number 3B, with a single window that faces a brick wall and a fire escape I've never used. I work IT support for a small software company downtown. Nothing glamorous, just fixing printers that refuse to print and calming down accountants who swear they didn't click that phishing link. Most nights I come home, heat up instant ramen, and sink into my couch with a controller in hand, blasting aliens or racing pixelated cars until the screen blurs. My friends from high school still ping me on Discord every now and then, but we mostly just roast each other's kill-death ratios. Life's quiet, predictable, safe. And for a long time, that was fine. Then one Tuesday, the rain came down in sheets drumming against the roof like it had something to prove. I was sprawled on the couch in sweatpants halfway through a bowl of soggy noodles when the mail slot clattered. A single envelope slid across the scuffed hardwood floor, thick cream paper, my name typed in elegant font. I knew what it was before I even picked it up. The 10-year high school reunion. I'd seen the save the date posts on social media, but seeing my name on the actual invitation made it real. I tore it open with a butter knife. Inside was a card with gold foil edges and a photo of our old gymnasium decked out in streamers. Join us for an evening of memories, it read. There was a QR code for RSVPs and a little note about bringing a +1. I snorted. Yeah, right. My thumb brushed over the guest list printed on the back. And there it was, halfway down the page in neat black ink, Sophie Lancaster plus Nathan Harlow. Sophie. I hadn't said her name out loud in years, but it still hit like a punch to the sternum. Senior year, she was everything cheer captain honor, roll the girl who could light up a room just by walking in. We dated for 2 years. She wore my Letterman jacket to every football game, and I skipped study hall to watch her practice routines in the gym. I thought we were endgame. Then college happened. I was grinding through computer science classes, dreaming of building apps that might actually matter. Sophie was interning at her dad's real estate firm, surrounded by people who wore suits before noon. One night over cheap diner coffee, she looked me in the eye and said, "You're sweet, Caleb, but you're safe. I need more than safe. Safe." The word still tasted like rust. She left me for Nathan Harlow, older, sharper, the kind of guy who closed deals before breakfast and drove a car that cost more than my annual salary. Last I heard, they were engaged, and now they were coming to the reunion. Together. I stared at the invitation until the letters blurred. It wasn't that I still loved Sophie, I didn't. But the thought of walking into that gym alone, watching her glide in on Nathan's arm while everyone whispered, "Poor Caleb, still single," made my stomach twist. I wasn't jealous of their life. I was tired of feeling like the guy who got left behind. I tossed the card onto the coffee table and rubbed my temples. The rain kept falling, tapping out a rhythm that matched the dull ache behind my eyes. That's when I met her. Well, met her properly anyway. The woman in 3A, Lena, had lived next door for months. I'd seen her in the hallway, always in oversized button-downs and messy buns, carrying stacks of manuscripts or a paper cup of coffee that smelled like it could wake the dead. She was older than me, maybe late 30s, with sharp cheekbones and eyes that seemed to catalog everything. We'd exchanged nods, the occasional, "Hey, how's it going?" but nothing more. She kept to herself, and I respected that. That night, the elevator was out of order again, so I trudged down the stairs, invitation still clutched in my fist. Lena was coming up, arms full of grocery bags, raindrops clinging to her dark hair. She wore a faded flannel shirt and jeans boots, splashing in the puddles on the landing. "Rough day?" she asked, shifting the bags to one hip. I managed a tired smile. You could say that. We fell into step, the stairwell echoing with our footsteps. I don't know what possessed me, maybe the rain, maybe the weight of the card in my hand, but the words tumbled out before I could stop them. "Lena, if I asked you to do something kind of insane, would you hear me out?" She paused on the second floor landing, one eyebrow arched. Define insane. I held up the invitation. I need a fake girlfriend for my high school reunion. Just one night. To avoid looking like a total loser in front of my ex. The silence stretched just long enough for me to regret every life choice that led to this moment. Then Lena laughed, not mocking, just soft like she'd heard worse. "When is it?" she asked. "Next Friday," I said, bracing for the polite no. She adjusted her grip on the bag's rain dripping from her sleeves. "I'll think about it." I blinked. "You're not saying no, I'm saying I'll think about it." She brushed past me, the scent of wet wool and something floral trailing behind her. Night Caleb. I stood there soaked and stunned as her door clicked shut. The invitation felt heavier in my hand than it had 5 minutes ago. Back in my apartment, I paced the narrow living room, replaying the conversation. Lena was 39, I'd seen the number on a package once. Divorced, no kids, worked from home editing manuscripts for indie authors. She was beautiful in a quiet, effortless way, but she wasn't the type to play games. Why would she agree to this? I flopped onto the couch, staring at the water stain on the ceiling. The reunion was 9 days away. Sophie would be there, probably in something red and expensive, Nathan's arm around her waist like a brand. And I'd be the guy who showed up alone, nursing a warm beer and a decade-old chip on his shoulder. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Unknown black dress, okay. I'll need your shirt size for the arm candy roll." I stared at the screen until it went dark. Lena. She'd actually said yes. I typed back before I could overthink it. "Me, whatever you want. And 34 slim. Thank you, seriously." The 3 dots appeared, then vanished, then reappeared. Lena. Don't thank me yet. We've got a performance to nail." I laughed out loud, the sound echoing in the empty apartment. For the first time in weeks, the knot in my chest loosened just a little. Outside, the rain kept falling, washing the city clean. I set the phone down and picked up the invitation again. This time, I didn't feel like the guy who got left behind. I felt like the guy with a plan. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of burnt toast and the buzz of my alarm. My phone was still on the coffee table, Lena's text glowing like a dare. I reread it 3 times, half convinced I'd dreamed the whole thing. Black dress, shirt size, performance. The words felt like they belonged to someone else's life. I dragged myself to work, the invitation tucked into my backpack like contraband. The office was its usual chaos: phones ringing, printers, jamming, Karen from accounting yelling about a frozen spreadsheet. I fixed her issue in 5 minutes, but my head wasn't in it. Every time I blinked, I saw Lena on that stairwell landing, rain in her hair, asking, "When is it?" like pretending to be my girlfriend was just another Tuesday. By lunch, I drafted and deleted 6 texts to her. Too eager, too casual, too weird. Finally, I settled on "Me still okay with Friday, I owe you coffee." Or dinner. Or my firstborn. The reply came before I'd even locked my screen. "Lena, coffee's fine. 7 p.m. Thursday, we'll rehearse. Bring your A-game, fake boyfriend." I spent the rest of the week in a fog. I ironed my only decent button-down twice. I Googled how to act like you're in love and closed the tab in horror. I even actually shaved on a Thursday, which was basically a personal record. Thursday evening, I stood outside her door with a paper bag from the cafe down the block. 2 large coffees, black for her, 2 sugars for me. My palms were damp. I knocked. Lena opened the door in a loose gray sweater and leggings, hair twisted up with a pencil. No makeup, bare feet. She looked like she'd been in the middle of something important and didn't care that I'd interrupted. "You're early," she said, but she was smiling. "Figured punctuality was part of the boyfriend package." She took the coffee, fingers brushing mine. "Come in." Shoes off. Her apartment was nothing like mine. Books everywhere, stacked on the floor, double-shelved, spilling off the coffee table. A laptop glowed on the couch, surrounded by red pens and sticky notes. The air smelled like vanilla and old paper. A single lamp cast warm light over everything. "Sit," she said, clearing a spot. "We've got work to do." I perched on the edge of the couch, clutching my coffee like a shield. "So, how do we do this fake dating 101? Lena sat cross-legged on the floor, notebook in hand. "First, backstory. How long have we been together? 6 months, 2 round. 5 months, 3 weeks. Specifics sell it," she scribbled. "How'd we meet? Elevator broke. You helped me carry groceries." She raised an eyebrow. Romantic. It's Denver. We work with what we've got. She laughed, actually laughed, and the sound loosened something in my chest. We built the story piece by piece. I was the overworked IT guy who fixed her laptop when it crashed mid-deadline. She was the editor who paid me in coffee and sarcasm. We bonded over late-night takeout and mutual hatred of Comic Sans. It was ridiculous. It was perfect. Pet name, she asked. I choked on my coffee. Absolutely not. Too bad. I'm calling you Trouble. Deal with it. By the time the coffees were cold, we had a script, inside jokes, shared memories, a timeline. Lena even made me practice introducing her to an imaginary Sophie. Hi, I'm Lena, she said, extending a hand with practiced grace. Caleb's been raving about this reunion for weeks. I took her hand, forgetting for a second it was pretend. Her skin was warm, her grip steady. Yeah, well, someone had to drag me out of my cave. She didn't let go right away. You're a natural. Friday came too fast. I picked her up at 7 sharp. She stepped out in the black dress, simple sleeveless hitting just below the knee. No jewelry, except small silver hoops. Her hair was down loose waves framing her face. She'd put on mascara, maybe lipstick. Nothing overdone. Everything perfect. Wow, I said. The word slipped out before I could stop it. Lena smirked. Save it for the audience. In the car, she fiddled with the radio until she found a classic rock station. Nervous, she asked. Terrified. Good. Means you care. She reached over, adjusted my collar. Breathe, Caleb. We've got this. The venue was a renovated warehouse downtown, exposed, brick string lights, a bar made from old barnwood. Our classmates milled around in clusters, louder and shinier than I remembered. I spotted Sophie immediately, red dress, diamond on her finger, Nathan's hand on the small of her back like he owned the real estate. Lena squeezed my arm. Showtime. We walked in like we belonged. She greeted people by names I'd whispered to her in the car. She laughed at the right jokes, asked about kids and careers and new houses. When someone asked how we met, she launched into our elevator story with such conviction, I almost believed it myself. Then Sophie approached. Caleb. Her voice was honey over gravel. You look good. Thanks. You too. I gestured. This is Lena. Sophie's smile didn't falter, but her eyes flicked over Lena like she was appraising a rival. How long have you two? 5 months, 3 weeks, Lena said smoothly. He fixed my laptop. I fixed his taste in fonts. Nathan chuckled, oblivious. Sophie's smile tightened. The night blurred. Lena never left my side. She danced with me to a song we didn't know. Fed me a bite of her dessert when no one was looking. When Sophie cornered me by the bar alone, finally Lena appeared like a shadow, sliding her arm around my waist. Everything okay, babe? She asked me, but her eyes were on Sophie. Perfect, I said, and meant it. Later in the parking lot, the air was crisp. Sophie watched us from the steps as Nathan helped her into their SUV. Lena waved. I didn't. In the car, she kicked off her heels and sighed. Well, you were incredible. She leaned her head against the window. It was fun, pretending to be wanted. The words hung between us. I glanced over. Was it all pretend? She didn't answer. Just reached for my hand and held it the rest of the way home. The warehouse buzzed with laughter and clinking glasses, the kind of forced nostalgia that made everyone talk a little too loud. String lights twinkled overhead like cheap stars, and the DJ, some guy from our old AV club, spun hits from the early 2010s that nobody admitted to liking anymore. Lena's hand stayed in mine as we wove through the crowd, her grip firm but not possessive. She smelled like vanilla and something citrusy, a scent that cut through the haze of cologne and spilled beer. Deep breath, she murmured, squeezing once. We're just two people madly in love. Easy. I nodded, but my pulse hammered. Faces I hadn't seen in a decade turned toward us, old teammates, former lab partners, the girl who sat behind me in calculus and always borrowed pencils. Their eyes lit up with recognition, then slid to Lena. Whispers followed. Who's that with Caleb? She's stunning. Lucky guy. Lena leaned into me, her shoulder brushing my arm. See, they're buying it. We grabbed drinks from the bar, beer for me, white wine for her. She sipped slowly, scanning the room like she belonged. When my old buddy Mark clapped me on the back, Lena jumped in before I could stammer. Mark Wright Caleb's told me all about that time you two tried to hack the school's grading system. She laughed light and genuine. Epic fail from what I hear. Mark's eyes widened. He told you that man I like her already? She charmed them effortlessly. Asked about wives' kids' new jobs. Remembered details I'd mumbled in the car Mark's promotion? Sarah's bakery startup. When someone asked how we met, she launched into our elevator saga with perfect timing, her hand gesturing animatedly. I played along, adding quips about her fixing my terrible taste in fonts. People ate it up. For the first time all night, I relaxed. This wasn't about Sophie. It was about us, fake us, but us. Then the crowd parted, and there she was. Sophie glided in like the room had been waiting for her. Red dress fitted and bold, hugging curves I used to trace with my fingers. Her hair was shorter now, styled in loose waves, and the diamond on her left hand caught the light with every gesture. Nathan trailed behind, tall and polished in a tailored suit, his arm looped around her waist like a claim sticker. Caleb Sophie's voice cut through the music, sweet as syrup. She air-kissed my cheek, her perfume overwhelming, floral and expensive. You look the same. In a good way. Thanks. My throat was dry. Sophie, this is Lena. Sophie's gaze flicked to Lena, appraising. Up, down. Smile fixed in place. Hi, I'm Sophie. We go way back. Lena extended a hand, her smile warm but unflinching. Lena, Caleb's girlfriend. He's mentioned you. Nathan pumped my hand too hard. Nathan Harlow? Investment firm downtown. Heard a lot about you, Caleb. Right, solid field, yeah. Keeps the lights on. Sophie tilted her head. How long have you two been? 5 months, 3 weeks, Lena said without missing a beat. He crashed into my life literally with a broken laptop and never left. Nathan chuckled. Sophie's eyes narrowed just a fraction. That's adorable. We've been together 4 years now, engaged last spring. She flashed the ring, twisting her wrist for maximum sparkle. Lena's thumb traced circles on the back of my hand, subtle reassuring. Congratulations! Caleb's not big on jewelry, but he's got other talents. The dig landed softly, but Sophie stiffened. Oh, like what? Making me laugh on bad days. Fixing things that are broken. Lena's voice was steady, her eyes locked on Sophie's. The important stuff. Nathan cleared his throat. Well, we should mingle. Great seeing you, Caleb. As they walked away, Sophie glanced back once. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. I exhaled, realizing I'd been holding my breath. You okay, Lena whispered. Better than okay. I turned to her, the noise fading around us. You just owned that. She shrugged, but her cheeks flushed. Team effort. The rest of the night flew. We danced to an old pop song, Lena's head on my shoulder as we swayed offbeat. She stole bites from my plate, teased me about my 2 left feet. When the DJ slowed it down, she pulled me close, her breath warm against my neck. Relax, she said. No one's watching. But I was. Watching her. The way her eyes crinkled when she smiled for real, the soft curve of her neck under the lights. This wasn't acting anymore, at least not for me. Sophie cornered us again near the dessert table. Alone this time, Nathan off networking. So, she said, voice low. Fake girlfriend. That's a new low, Caleb. My stomach dropped. Lena's hand tightened in mine. What makes you think it's fake? Lena asked, calm as ever. Sophie smirked. Please, he's still the same safe guy, you'll see. Lena stepped forward just an inch. Safe isn't a flaw, it's rare. And yeah, maybe he asked me to come tonight, but I said yes because I wanted to. Because being with him feels right. Sophie opened her mouth, closed it. For the first time, she looked small. Nathan called her over. She left without another word. Lena turned to me, eyes searching. You good. I pulled her into a hug right there in the middle of the room. You have no idea. The party wound down. We said goodbyes, posed for photos, promised to keep in touch we wouldn't. Outside, the air was crisp, stars peeking through the city haze. Sophie watched from the steps as Nathan helped her into their sleek Audi. Lena waved politely. I didn't bother. In my beat-up Honda, she kicked off her heels and flexed her toes. Feet are killing me. Worth it, though. I started the engine. You were amazing. Seriously. Sophie looked like she swallowed a lemon. Lena laughed softly. Mission accomplished more than... I glanced over. Hey, thanks for having my back in there. She met my eyes. Anytime. The drive home was quiet, the radio humming low. She leaned against the window, streetlights flickering across her face. At a red light, she said, "It was fun. Pretending to be yours." My hands tightened on the wheel. Was it pretend she didn't answer right away? Just reached over and laced her fingers through mine. The light turned green. I drove her hand warm in mine, the city blurring past. We pulled up to the complex. I killed the engine but didn't move to get out. Lena? She turned her face half-shadowed. Caleb. I leaned in slow enough for her to stop me. She didn't. Our lips met soft, tentative. Real. When we pulled apart, her eyes were wide, but she was smiling. Inside, she asked. I nodded. We walked up the stairs hand in hand, the fake forgotten somewhere between the warehouse and here. The days after the reunion felt like waking from a dream you didn't want to end. I kept waiting for the awkwardness, the polite distance, the moment Lena would laugh it off and say, "Great acting, huh?" But it never came. Instead, she texted me the next morning. Coffee my treat. No fonts to fix. I showed up at the little shop on the corner, the one with the mismatched chairs and barista, who always drew hearts in the foam. Lena was already there, curled in a booth with a paperback and 2 steaming mugs. She wore an oversized cardigan hair in a loose braid, glasses perched on her nose. She looked up and smiled like she'd been waiting for me, not just coffee. Morning trouble, she said, sliding a mug across the table. I sat wrapping my hands around the warmth. You remember the 2 sugars? Of course. Boyfriend duties don't end at the reunion. We talked for 2 hours, about everything and nothing. She told me about the manuscript she was editing, a romance where the hero was a mechanic who fixed more than cars. I told her about the server crash at work that had me pulling an all-nighter. When the cafe started filling up, she closed her book and said, "Walk me home." We fell into a rhythm. Mornings became ours. I'd knock on her door with coffee, she'd answer in pajamas, hair a mess, and pull me inside to taste whatever she was baking. Afternoons, if our schedules aligned, we'd read on her couch, her feet in my lap, my thumb tracing absent patterns on her ankle. Evenings we cooked. Nothing fancy. Pasta with whatever was in the fridge. Stir-fry that burned because we got distracted arguing over whether pineapple belonged on pizza. It doesn't. She disagreed, but there was a line she never crossed. She never invited me to stay the night. Never let me pass the living room after 10. When I brushed her hair from her face or leaned in to kiss her goodnight in the hallway, she'd linger just long enough to make my heart race, then pull back with a soft, "See you tomorrow." I told myself it was fine. She'd been hurt before. I could wait. Then came the rainy Thursday. I'd spent the morning wrestling with a client's ancient database, the kind that crashed if you looked at it wrong. By noon, I was soaked from the dash between buildings, my mood matching the gray sky. Lena texted, "Come over when you're done." I made soup. Her apartment smelled like garlic and thyme when I walked in. She was at the stove stirring, wearing my hoodie, the one I'd left draped over her couch 2 weeks ago. It swallowed her sleeves, rolled up to her elbows. "You stole my clothes," I said, dropping my wet jacket by the door. "Finders keepers." She ladled soup into bowls. "Sit. You look like you fought a printer and lost." We ate on the couch bowls, balanced on our knees, some old movie playing in the background. Rain drummed against the windows. When the credits rolled, I set my bowl down and turned to her. "Lena." She looked up, spoon halfway to her mouth. Why haven't you let me stay?" The question hung between us, heavier than the steam from the soup. She lowered the spoon slowly. "It's not you," she said finally. "I know. But I want to understand." She pulled her knees to her chest, wrapping her arms around them. "My ex David, he was everything at first. Charming. Attentive. Then the late nights started. The work trips. The way he'd look at me like I was an inconvenience. When I found the messages, he didn't even fight for us. Just packed a bag and left. Said I was too much work. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were glassy. I told myself I'd never let anyone that close again. Then you show up asking me to pretend, and suddenly I'm not pretending anymore, and that scares the hell out of me. I moved closer, careful like she might bolt. I'm not him. I know. She met my eyes. But what if I'm still broken? What if I let you in and I ruin this? I took the bowl from her hand, set it aside. You're not broken. You're cautious. There's a difference. I cupped her face thumb, brushing her cheek. I'm not asking for forever. I'm asking for tonight. And tomorrow, one day at a time. She searched my face, then leaned into my touch. You make it sound so simple. It is. With you, it is. The rain softened outside. She unfolded herself, shifting until she was in my lap, arms around my neck. Stay, she whispered. Just stay. I kissed her, then slow, deliberate, like we had all the time in the world. She tasted like soup and possibility. When we pulled apart, her forehead rested against mine. I'm terrified, she admitted. Me too. I smiled. But I'm here. We didn't make it to the bedroom. The couch was enough. Blankets tangled around us, her laughter muffled against my shoulder when I knocked over the remote. Later, when the rain had stopped and the city was quiet, she traced lazy circles on my chest. Caleb. Yeah, I don't want to pretend anymore. I pressed a kiss to her hair. Good. Because I'm all out of lines. She fell asleep first, her breathing evening out against my skin. I lay awake listening to the hum of the refrigerator, the occasional car passing below. For the first time in years, my apartment didn't feel like the place I escaped to. It felt like the place I couldn't wait to get back to because she was in it. Morning came gray and slow. I woke to the smell of coffee and the soft clink of mugs. Lena was in the kitchen wearing my hoodie again, hair a wild halo. She handed me a cup, black 2 sugars. Sleep okay? She asked. Best in years. I took a sip. She leaned against the counter, smiling. I didn't have nightmares. I set the mug down, pulled her close. Good. Because I plan on making that a habit. She laughed, the sound bright and unguarded. One day at a time, remember. One day, I agreed. Starting now. Outside, the clouds parted, sunlight spilling across the floorboards. We stood there, in the quiet coffee, cooling, her head on my shoulder. No scripts, no audience. Just us. The Sunday afternoon sun filtered through the half-drawn blinds of Lena's apartment, casting lazy stripes across the hardwood floor. I stood outside her door, heart thudding like it had that first night in the stairwell, equal parts nerves and certainty. In my hand, a small bouquet of lavender, her favorite. She'd mentioned it once offhand during one of our late-night talks about forgotten gardens and the books that made her cry. The stems were still damp from the farmer's market downtown, wrapped in simple brown paper with a sprig of eucalyptus peeking out. I knocked 3 times, soft, but deliberate. The door creaked open after what felt like forever. Lena stood there, framed in the warm light from inside. She wore an old wool sweater that slipped off one shoulder, revealing the soft curve of her collarbone paired with faded leggings. Her hair was tousled like she'd been napping or lost in a manuscript, no makeup, barefoot on the cool floorboards. She blinked once, then her face broke into that unguarded smile, the one that crinkled her eyes and made the world tilt just a little. Caleb. Her voice was soft, laced with surprise and something warmer. What's all this? I held out the flowers, my free hand suddenly clammy. Not for a performance, not pretend, real. All of it from the reunion to now. I want this. Us. She took the bouquet slowly, her fingers brushing mine in a spark that lingered. Bringing it to her nose, she inhaled deeply, eyes fluttering shut. Lavender, how did you... You mentioned your grandma's porch swing, the one covered in them every summer. I shrugged, trying to play it cool. Couldn't forget. Her eyes opened, shining. They're perfect! Come in. She stepped aside the door, swinging wide to reveal the familiar chaos of her space books, piled like modern art, a half-read novel splayed on the coffee table, the faint scent of simmering tomatoes wafting from the kitchen. I followed her in, kicking off my shoes by the door out of habit now. The vase she handed me was cracked ceramic, probably scavenged from some estate sale, filled with water from the sink. Dinner's almost ready. she said over her shoulder, clipping a few stems. Pasta, nothing fancy, just sauce from scratch. Can I help? She glanced back, smirking. Chop garlic, you're getting better. We fell into the rhythm we'd built over weeks, shoulders bumping in the narrow kitchen, her guiding my hand on the knife when I minced too rough. Garlic sizzled in olive oil, filling the air with sharp perfume. She stirred the sauce-rich San Marzano tomatoes basil from her windowsill herb pot, a glug of red wine that made her hum approvingly. I grated parmesan, watching her move with that effortless gray sweater sleeves, pushed up a smudge of flour on her cheek. Why today? She asked, tasting the sauce with a wooden spoon. The flowers, the knock. Because last night in the rain on your couch, I realized I don't want one day at a time anymore. I want all the days. She set the spoon down, turning to face me fully. Caleb. I stepped closer, wiping the flour from her cheek with my thumb. Hear me out. You scare me too. You're older, wiser, been through hell I can't imagine. But every morning with you coffee that tastes better because you're smiling over it. Nights where we argue about book endings and end up laughing instead. That's real. That's worth risking. Her eyes searched mine, vulnerable in a way I'd never seen. David promised forever once. Then he left because I wasn't convenient. What if I'm still too much work? You're not work. You're everything. I took her hands, sauce-stained and warm. Let me prove it. The sauce bubbled forgotten on the stove as she pulled me into a kiss, deep, unhurried, tasting of wine and garlic and home. We turned off the heat, somehow plates forgotten, migrating to the table only after the urgency softened to something tender. Dinner was magic in its simplicity, twirls of spaghetti slick with sauce flecked with fresh basil and cracked pepper, crusty bread, torn by hand and dipped in olive oil. We ate slowly, candles she'd lit flickering between us, casting shadows that danced on the walls. Wine glasses clinked, stories flowed, not scripted ones, but raw truths. Tell me about your grandma, I said, twirling pasta. She smiled, eyes distant. Porch swing in Maine. Summer smelled like lavender and sea salt. She'd read to me old romances where the heroes actually stayed. Sounds like us. Does it? She reached across, tracing my knuckles. I thought I'd never believe in that again. You do now. Her gaze held mine. With you, yeah. We cleared plates together, suds flying in the sink as I washed and she dried. She flicked water at me. I retaliated, laughter echoing off the cabinets until we were breathless foreheads touching over the dish rack. The last fork clinked into the drawer and she turned, pulling me close. The bedroom was dim, streetlights filtering through sheer curtains. Clothes shed like old doubts, sweater pooling on the floor, my shirt tugged over my head. Lavender scented the air as we tangled in sheets that smelled like her vanilla pages possibility. Her touches were sure exploring whispers turning to gasps. Time blurred minutes or hours, I didn't care. Just her skin against mine, breaths, sinking the world, narrowing to this bed, this moment. Later spent and sated, we lay facing each other, sheets twisted around our legs. Her fingers traced lazy patterns on my chest, rising and falling with my breath. What now? She murmured, voice husky. Now we build it. Breakfasts, lazy Sundays, arguments over who hogs the blankets. I kissed her forehead. No rush for rings or labels, but I'm in all the way. She nestled closer, head under my chin. Me too, terrified, but happy. Morning light crept in birdsong, piercing the quiet. I woke first, her curled against me, breathing steady. Slipping free carefully, I padded to the kitchen, coffee brewing black for her, 2 sugars for me. Toast popped jam from her fridge. I carried the tray back, setting it on the nightstand. She stirred, blinking sleepily. Domestic god habit now? I handed her the mug. Good morning, beautiful. She sipped, eyes lighting up. Best one yet. We ate in bed, crumbs on the sheets, her feet tangled in mine. Talk turned to tomorrow's, a weekend hike in the Rockies, her book launch party where I'd be her +1 for real. No pretenses, just plans. That evening as dusk settled, we stood on her balcony. Denver sprawled below, lights twinkling on Rockies shadowed in the distance. Her back to my chest, my arms around her waist, chin on her shoulder. I don't promise mansions or jets, I whispered. No grand gestures like Nathan's world. She turned in my arms, hands on my chest. I don't want that. I want this you here every day, rain or shine, mornings like today. Our kiss sealed it under the emerging stars. Soft, promising, not a fairy tale start, but a real one. Stories like ours don't explode with fireworks. They simmer from a fake invite rainy stairs, a woman who played along and stole my heart. Sophie faded ink, reunion distant echo, Lena and I, the real story. Two lonelies who pretended then chose truth. And stayed. Bye-bye.